call the meeting to order.
Jenkins,
Here.
Harden, Vaughn,
Here.
McKinley, Earl.
Here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First thing that we have on this evening's agenda is the consent agenda.
Make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Call it.
Harden, Vaughn,
Yes.
McKinley, Earl.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Didn't call my name. Jenkins,
Jenkins.
yes, please. There being no unfinished business, we move to section 3.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 945, amending section 110.16 of the code of the city of Farmer City, retailer licenses, classes, and fees.
Second.
Any discussion?
This is going towards,
This is for the American Legion. You'll notice in the city manager's report that both Larry and I went and met. Actually, we went to the American Legion's meeting, and there we addressed some of their concerns and some of our concerns. Originally, we had a councilman raise question to whether or not that they were within the parameters of the law as it was written. As I looked at it, and Larry and even our lawyer looked at it, it seemed that the council person was correct, that they were operating outside the way that it was the way our law is written. If you were to ask their lawyer, they came up to a different conclusion. The city council did press the issue, and eventually they came here, and I asked to go to their meeting. As we went to their meeting, I proposed to the American Legion that instead of, there being a major fight or anything, that we reword the ordinance in such a way, and also raise the fee. That way they would be operating within the law as we see it, and they would be paying what we would be considering a fair amount in contrast to what the bar owners are paying as well. We did have one bar owner also raise some objections. So the American Legion voted, it was unanimous as I recall, that they liked our proposal, and they would like to see this go through. I am in full support of this.
And you mentioned rewording it. It's actually not a reword.
No, it's a new license.
It's
a new license.
So, well, it's a new class of license.
It is a new class. The objection was this, that the way the ordinance was written in the past was that they could only serve 2 members. And guests. It seemed obvious that they were opening up to the public, and they were calling anyone in the public a guest. And the council person, I believe, was very right in pointing out that seems to be pushing, the limit. Why even call it a guest if it was open to the public? So the new license would allow them to serve to anyone in the public. So yeah, it's a new license. One concern that we had is by redoing the license, or by at least changing the license, Woodlawn would be forced to pay the high rate. So what we did was add another license. That way Woodlawn does not have to pay the additional fees. They would be covered under the old license. So, Larry, you got anything else to add to that?
No, that's correct. The big thing is not to force something on Woodlawn Country Club, because they would actually be a victim in this scenario. They could get the classification license if that's what they would like to do. If they want to open up to the public, you're actually voting for 2 such licenses tonight, so there'll be one available, so we don't have to come back in the future and change the ordinance again. I don't think that you'll see Woodlawn come and do that, but, you know, it'll be made available if that's the case. And there again, as the mayor said, this classification will allow the Legion to operate legally under the city's ordinances. They weren't violating state statute, but they were violating the local ordinances. So it hopefully will satisfy several different questions and issues there. So.
Well, I appreciate you guys, because this could have been a bigger issue, and I appreciate you taking the time to go speaking to their members and speaking to the public and figuring out a way that, you know, makes everybody happy and also takes care of the city and keeps everything legal. So thank you to you guys.
And we made the recommendation on the ordinance. If you pass it the way it's written, that's a recommendation. That fee amount is really up to the city council to decide. I will tell you that the Legion was satisfied with that fee amount. It is less than what your two license holders downtown pay, but there was also taken into consideration that since they are not-for-profit, since they do issue scholarships all the time, since they do open their building up during disasters, there's a lot of things that the Legion does for town where they're putting money back into the community. I'm not saying that the local ones don't, but I think it's pretty clear that the Legion does do a little bit more than what local business does. So, but you have the right to decide what you want that fee to be.
So calmed all waters?
I believe that everybody, as far as, you know, the feedback that I got, that they were very happy with this.
Yes, the Legion does a lot for the community, that is for sure.
Any other discussion?
Sounds good.
Go ahead and call it.
Han,
Yes.
McKinley, Pearl,
Yes.
Jenkins.
Present.
Motion carried.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 946, an ordinance terminating the tax increment financing redevelopment project, area number 1 of the city of Farmer City, Illinois, in related matters.
I second.
Discussion.
This is just some housekeeping. We knew that we had to do this and do it in a timely manner. So a copy of this ordinance will be placed on file. We did close the TIF out at the end of the year, but this is the official end of it right here.
Go ahead and call it.
McKinley, Pearl,
Yes.
Jenkins,
Yes.
Harden, Han.
Yes.
Motion carried.
This brings us to section 4, other items, the city manager's report.
Before I get too far, I did want to bring it to you that we did have someone, I believe, that wants to make a public comment tonight. Other than that, I've told you once before, but I did have another meeting with the ADM people up there concerning North Plum, from Van Buren to the railroad tracks, from the railroad tracks on up to 150. And we're getting real close to being able to actually get something done with that stretch of the street up there. And if you've been up there before, it looks like a battle zone. ADM is looking like they're going to spend some $80,000 on their end of the deal to make some improvements up there. There's an old tree up there that has to be taken down. That's going to cost us about $900. That'll be a cost that the city will have to incur. And we're going to stand the cost of the curbing. The new curbing is going to be about $6,000. On the north side, we're going to do some drainage work to get rid of that water, which has been a long, ongoing problem up there. So it's glad to know that ADM wants to be a good neighbor and help clean up that area. The city clerk has submitted advertisements seeking bids for the 20-some acres of farmland for the custom farming for this year, and the mowing bids have been put in the paper as well. And, just so you know that Congressman Rodney Davis will have a representative here. They called late this afternoon, and on March 18th between the hours of 10 and 12 they'll be here in City Hall if anybody wants to come up and meet with one of the representatives. We hired a lineman back early December. As you know, we have, one of our employees has a medical issue, and so instead of waiting too late, we wanted to get a lineman on board. We hired a lineman, and he was here for about 2.5 weeks. 5 o'clock in the morning, I got an email that he left the keys lay on the workbench, and he was no longer wishing to be employed by the city of Farmer City. Since then, we had made a list when we did that hiring, and the other gentleman that was on the list has decided that he would take the job. He's gone through lineman's apprentice schooling down in Kentucky. He's done a lot of heavy-duty construction work, and we hooked him up with Terry here because unfortunately he sent me an email. He couldn't find a place to live, and he was actually going to move to Leroy, Illinois. And I said, well, we can't have that. We got to have our guy living here in town. And Terry told me a little bit ago, and I did get an email that he's going to rent an apartment off of Terry. So he'll be starting on February 9th, will be his first day. Again, we've had a new light plant operator that started about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. I know we haven't met for a month, so some of this might be old news to some of you, but we do have that position filled. And Wednesday, we're going to be interviewing for a water, wastewater employee. So trying to get some of those positions filled, get some younger people here working here.
New power plant employee, is he been around long enough to know, or is he fresh learning everything, or?
That's one of those jobs that basically I don't know of anybody that's trained before you go in there, Pat.
Right.
And so it's on-the-job training. The wage kind of says it's on-the-job training. So, but a young person, very enthusiastic. The recommendation came out of the light plant. The guys out there are the ones that sat in, did the big part of the interviews, and they were very comfortable with the person that was hired. So, but they're going through the training process now. Talking to Wally, they've got several runs that they're going to have to make. Some online and some just within inside the building. And so this hire actually comes at a good time. So with those runs being scheduled, then we don't get penalized. If we do an unscheduled run, then we can get penalized by IMEA. But since these are scheduled, then this person will be out there for that training. So.
Any questions to the manager's report? I have one. There's a comment about a resident, or there's a tree growing into the power lines, and you were getting an estimate to have it cut, and then before it was cut, someone else paid to have it cut down, and then they sent us a bill. You pointed out that it doesn't seem that one major issue is that it does not appear that the tree is on any land owned by the city. Why aren't we giving any type of reimbursement if we were going to have the tree cut in the first place?
We were going to have the limbs taken out of the high tension lines,
Okay.
the intertie, not have the tree completely cut down.
Okay.
I don't have a paid receipt on how much this tree is. Person brought in and it's marked estimate, and it's for a very large amount, thousands of dollars.
I see that.
And so the tree not being on city-owned land, from anything that I can find out through aerials that we have and records at the courthouse, I don't know that we would be liable to pay to have this tree cut down. And generally, if we have a tree cut down, then we will take the firewood and we will offer it to somebody if they, the person that cut the tree down, they took all the firewood on top of that. So, and that might seem like a minor point, but if it's public money, we try to pass out that firewood to people that need it. But the big issue is that the tree was not on city land. We weren't going to have the tree completely taken down, but we would be obligated to get it out of our intertie line.
Did we have an estimate on how much it would cost to have the tree topped?
Yes.
I'm assuming that if we got the estimate from this family that they're wanting us to pay for,
I believe they turned the estimate in as a paid receipt for the entire amount.
okay. I'm just asking the question, is there any way that we could, I mean, we were willing to pay to have it topped off. Is there any way that that portion, I mean, if we had an actual paid receipt, a portion, I mean, we were gonna do it anyway, and we needed to do it for the.
Well, if you see that that bill is in the thousands, and to have it topped off was well under 1,000.
Well, I guess that would be my point. Is there any way that we could reimburse them for, what we were already willing to pay? So I don't know what's going on here. I just see that.
The problem is that it was in our intertie,
Okay.
and that you just don't hire anybody to be cutting around when you're dealing with our intertie. And should somebody have gotten hurt while they were down in the back there cutting that tree, there could have been some liability thrown back on us. So they really should have just kind of waited.
Why did they cut it down?
Well, the tree was dead.
Is it on their land?
I'm not sure whose land it is. According to the zoning department, it appears to be on Horvath's property.
But either way, we gotta keep the power lines clear. So if we top the tree, we're gonna pretty much massacre a dead tree, which would be an eyesore. Am I wrong?
No, I don't know. I mean, I don't know the tree or anything like that. I just.
I mean, if it's a dead tree,
But it wasn't our tree.
I guess my argument there, and we're going back a long ways on that, whose tree is between the sidewalk and the road?
Those are on the city terrace. I would say that those trees technically would belong to the city.
But who's gonna maintain it?
Generally speaking, we have been.
But in the past, it was the taxpayer who owns the property there is supposed to be, has to hire it done.
Well, that seems to change every time the administration changes.
Okay. That's why I was saying, our power lines are there, we gotta take care of our power lines.
My understanding is if there's a problem or an issue and a tree that's between the sidewalk and the road falls down and hurts somebody, we're liable. So it's our, we're the ones who need to be taken care of. And so I know that there's even disagreement in this council, but if you own the land, I don't see why you don't own the tree. I don't see the argument.
If you think that it's fair to reimburse them the cost of the estimate that I had gotten from
The only,
an arborist,
I guess there's not enough information here. I just see there's a family in town that's paid to have a tree cut down, and we were already going to do the work, and I don't know, it looks like they're bringing us the bill, so they either knew we were gonna, I have no clue on what's going on here. But I really don't want a family who was doing work that maybe we were going to do be shorted any
well, we're
cash.
not, Mayor, we're not 100% sure that a professional tree company actually cut the tree down.
Okay.
We had an estimate from the tree company, but we think that the individuals.
I would say that you would not, I don't think that we should pay on an estimate, but if there was an actual invoice, maybe that we could take what we had estimated to top it off and reimburse the family for that. I would think that that would be fair. If we were gonna do it, because what they've done is essentially taken away our problem that we were already going to pay for. And it looks like they're at least making an argument that they were doing the work that we had said we were going to do, because they obviously knew about it. So I just like to see a family be taken care of in those regards, unless you guys have any other thoughts.
I think we need to get the bill, if that's not the bill, if it's an estimate, we need to be getting taken care of.
Very good. Any non-agenda items and other business?
I don't know.
I have one, and then we have a public comment. I had and I believe they're on your neck of the woods. We kind of brought it up last time with the chickens and everything. They've sent me pictures of chickens running around. I don't know if this family, and I'll give you the name later. I know, the Great Chicken Scandal of 2015, I will go down this. But they've sent me pictures of chickens running around the neighborhood and terrorizing people or whatever. And I did, of course, the ordinance does say that chickens need to be put in a pen. And from the pictures, it definitely looks like the chickens are not in a pen. So I am requesting that our officers investigate this, and if there's ordinance violations, that they follow up on that.
Okay, so you do have to understand that these chickens have to be running at large when the officer is there. The officer cannot go on their property because the officer technically is trespassing. So when somebody sees these chickens running at large, that's when they need to call, not take pictures and tell somebody a day or two later or post it on Facebook so everybody looks bad. They need to call immediately so the officer can go up there and respond. To the best of my knowledge, that has not happened before.
No,
I got a question. Running at large. Is that running in the yard, or is that running in somebody else's yard? If they're supposed to.
It would be out of the pit.
I'm not-
Out of the pit.
Now you're asking me my personal opinion on how the law reads. I'm just saying that wording is used, Pat, running at large. Okay?
Well, that's why I was wondering, because you said, I know you can't go on property and be trespassing, but if they're running into people's yards, that's obviously not being pinned up like the ordinance says.
Yeah, I just, I know they've called me several times, and I don't know if there's squabbles going back and forth or what have you, but I agree with your point that they need to contact the officer when it's happening, and then the officer needs to come and see the chickens out as they come instead of social network sites. But if there is a violation of the ordinance, regardless of why the person's bringing it up, it is a violation of the ordinance, and we need to try to address it. I will inform them. I'm assuming that they're listening or they'll read or what have you, that please contact our local police department when they see the crime being committed, and they can call them in and they can go enforce the ordinance. So that's all I had extra. Any other non-agenda items?
Street crew did good getting the snow off for what
They
days
did.
it was.
They did. They worked hard. So we do have one public comment. Ms. Delaney, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Actually have a proposal tonight for a city ordinance to be imposed in Farmer City regarding animal cruelty in its relation to outside dogs or outside kept pets. We've all seen them around here. There's a dog tied to a dog house or in a pen outside, guarding the garage or lot 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in all kinds of weather. Many of us are wondering, especially in the extreme heat and cold, like tonight, is it legal for them to do that? Should I report it to the authorities? In my research, I found that many states have imposed anti-tethering laws, but some cities, however, have had to make their own city ordinances above and beyond what the states require in order to do what they know to be right and humane. I've provided an entire folder of different ordinances that cities have imposed for you to peruse over. I won't go through those in detail right now. I'll try to keep this short. I know I wasn't on the agenda, so I appreciate you hearing me here. I didn't want to wait another month because it is so cold, and I think the sooner this is thought about, the better it'll be for some of these animals that are out there right now. It's Farmer City. We know our city. We know its people and its animals, for that matter. I think it's our civic responsibility to ensure that the best treatment is made possible for our inhabitants, whether they be human or animal. So there's currently only one animal control officer in all of DeWitt County. She's bombarded with calls every time the weather dips below freezing because people see these animals suffering and they want to help them. They want justice, and they're just not sure what to do. I've highlighted the current Illinois law as it pertains to tethered animals, and it's pretty general. Each owner shall provide sufficient quantity and quality of food and water, adequate shelter and protection from the weather, veterinary care, To lawfully tether a dog outdoors, an owner must ensure that the dog doesn't suffer from a condition that is exacerbated by the tethering. They're tethered in a manner that will prevent it from becoming entangled. The dog chain cannot weigh more than 1/8 of the dog's body weight. It can't be a tow chain or a log chain. It needs to be at least 10 foot long, properly fitting, and it's not tethered in a manner that will allow it to reach another's property or a public walkway or road. It's all general stuff, but the problem here is that the law is so vague, it's nearly impossible for our police officers to enforce it. It should also be noted that although most pet owners consider their pets to be part of their family, many of them do not consider keeping dogs outside all of the time to be cruel. And the answer to whether it's cruel, at least from a physical perspective, depends on the dog's breed, the climate, and the conditions of confinement. In addition to being exposed to extreme temperatures, chained dogs often suffer neck injuries from ill-fitting collars, and strangulation can result from entanglement with nearby objects. Tethering can also render a dog virtually invisible to its owner, leading to more owner neglect, like lack of food, water, and veterinary care. In addition, most animal behaviorists agree that tethered or penned dogs suffer from frustration, which can lead to increased aggression and a greater tendency to attack or bite humans and other animals. Outdoor female dogs that are unspayed can lead to unwanted litters of dogs that end up in shelters. Many states and municipalities have enacted laws specifically regarding the tethering of dogs. The laws generally address one or more of the following elements. Whether or not, what the type of tether is a prong, pinch, or choke collar, which are generally not allowed. The duration of the tethering, the number of consecutive hours that a dog may be tethered during the day, and the restriction of movement, that's the radius that the dog is able to travel. There are a few states that I used as examples here. Texas, for example, prohibits an owner from keeping a dog outside and unattended by use of restraint between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Within 500 feet of a school or where extreme weather conditions are present. The law also specifies the appropriate type of collar and tether length. The overnight restriction here allows for easier enforcement than restricting the number of hours per day a dog can be tethered, in addition to guarding against noise complaints from neighbors. Banning tethering during specific hours instead of simply limiting the total number of hours is key to law enforcement officials, since a humane officer cannot stay at a location long enough to calculate the total number of hours that a dog has spent on the chain, especially overnight. And then presumably the restriction on the distance from a school represents a legislative recognition of the increased danger that tethered dogs present to humans, demonstrating that these laws are designed to protect humans as well as animals. Connecticut has arguably the strongest protections in place for tethered dogs, specifically the length and type of tether permitted, requiring swivels on both ends to prevent twisting and tangling. And in 2013, Connecticut amended and strengthened its law by specifically addressing heat and weather. The Connecticut statute now prohibits tethering a dog outdoors when a weather advisory has been issued or outdoor environment conditions pose an adverse risk to the health or safety of the dog, unless the dog is tethered for no more than 15 minutes. But there's different bills like this throughout Pennsylvania, and I've listed things here that are in state statute. But one example, the city of Harrisburg went above and beyond its Pennsylvania laws and recently passed its own ordinance protecting outside dogs in its own jurisdiction. The ordinance gives humane and police officers and dog owners specific weather guidelines keyed to National Weather Service alerts. Most significantly, it protects dogs left outside even if they're not tethered by a chain. It defines outside to mean any unattended dog that is outside subject to weather and elements, which expressly includes but not limited to a dog in a secured fence, in a yard, in a dog carrier, or tethered or tied out. The prohibition applies regardless of whether a doghouse is provided. This is crucial as humane officers summoned during heat waves will tell you that a doghouse can become an oven, reaching dangerous temperatures, and similarly provides little comfort in sub-freezing temperatures. The Pennsylvania Senate bill is more specific about extremes of temperature, banning tethering outside when the temperature is below freezing or above 90 degrees Fahrenheit, or when a weather advisory or warning is in effect, and does not contain any exceptions. Both bills ban the use of choke, pinch, prong, or other chain collars. Both the House and Senate bills were referred to their chambers, judiciary committees, but neither was brought to a vote. Animal advocates are hopeful that the state and local legislatures will act to provide humane law enforcement the tools they need to ensure that every dog is provided with sufficient shelter and protection from the elements, which is exactly what I hope to see happen here with local legislation. So I propose that the City of Farmer City consider the immediate implementation of a new ordinance that will protect our animals. It was a high of 10 degrees today. You know, if you were asked to spend the night in your own garage tonight, how would that feel? And that's a completely enclosed space. The dogs that I'm concerned about right now are the ones that are in dog houses with one side completely exposed to the elements. It's unbelievable to me that they're able to survive some of these nights or would even want to. So with the current Illinois laws already in place, I propose the following additional considerations for city ordinance. A, Farmer City prohibits an owner from keeping a pet outside and or unattended by use of a restraint that unreasonably limits the pet's movement, number one, between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., or for more than 4 hours of the remaining 16 hours of the day. Within 500 feet of a school, where extreme weather conditions are present, specifically temperatures above 90 degrees and below 32 degrees. Animals shall not be kept in cars for any period of time exceeding 30 minutes or in periods of extreme temperatures. First violation, I recommend a warning. Second violation, a fine. And third violation would be the right for authorities to remove pets from the possession of the offender. And I believe with this ordinance in place, not only will we be doing what's right, but we'll be aiding our police officers and humane officers in imposing a law that's currently so difficult to enforce.
And you'll leave that packet.
I will, and I also have a few pages of signatures of supporting, people supporting this from the community, and they either are from the community or have ties with the community in some way, and then also many examples of different city ordinances and how they would relate to this, and links as well.
And you'll leave all that here as well.
I will.
So,
Thank you, Jen.
Thank
any
you.
questions that,
Interesting.
Yeah, and if you guys had any questions, I'd be happy to write them down and look them up to the best of my ability and get back to you.
Okay. Yeah, I think we need to dig into this a little bit more, and you can't obviously adopt something on the spot like that, so we'll see what we can accomplish.
I think a lot of people have that concern, just nobody really knows what to do about it, or
let me just encourage this, especially as we look at this and move forward. Public aware. I would strongly urge just public awareness. You've seen just a few minutes before you even spoke, we spent 10 minutes talking about a chicken issue and trying to enforce that ordinance. So, I mean, adding other ordinances, and by no means opposed to anything like this, but how sometimes it can just get complicated, or sometimes public awareness and just a reminder, you know what, dogs freeze too out there is vital to a community.
and cats and chickens, and so that could be an all-encompassing kind of law. You know, your animals don't need to be outside in extreme temperatures, or outside running free, or enclosed, or tethered to. They need to be treated the way they're meant to be
So
treated.
I would encourage you with public awareness and just getting that word out. I've seen this, I guess the petition going around, and I think that does a lot for the community when they see things like that. That's that reminder,
Sure.
and sometimes puts things into perspective. And you know what, we need those reminders. So I appreciate the work that you've done on this already.
Thank you.
So very good. With that being said, we entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Call it.
Pearl,
Yes.
Jenkins,
Yes.
Hardy, Hahn,
Yes.
McKinley. Motion carried.
Thank you all.